Long before the thunderous march of Roman legions, another power ruled ancient Italy. But this empire was facing a crisis. It wasn't war or famine. It was a crushing cosmic silence. They built grand temples, offered their finest sacrifices, and prayed to gods who they feared were no longer listening. They hadn't lost their faith, but they had forgotten the language of the divine. Then, one day, the earth itself offered an answer. From a freshly plowed field, something crawled forth. It wasn't a monster or a king. It was a child, a being with the face of an infant, but the eyes of an old soul, who held the secrets of the universe in its memory. This is the story of a mysterious child who retaught a people how to talk to their gods and built an empire's faith from the ground up. This is the story of Taugis, the so-called demon child of the Etruscans. Imagine a civilization so brilliant and so enigmatic that we're still piecing its story together today. Before Rome was Rome, the Italian peninsula was the land of the Etruscans. These were a people of incredible sophistication, master artisans of stunning jewelry, brilliant engineers of thriving cities, and powerful sailors who commanded the seas. Their culture was vibrant, and their language was a puzzle unlike any other in the ancient world. But for all their earthly success, they saw the world through a spiritual lens. To the Etruscans, every single thing that happened was a message from the gods. A flash of lightning, the flight of a bird, a tremor in the earth. None of it was random. The philosopher Seneca perfectly captured their mindset. Whereas we believe lightning is released when clouds collide, they believe the clouds collide so that lightning may be released. For them, the universe was a constant conversation. So living in a world where you've forgotten how to interpret the signs is terrifying. It's like being adrift in a sea of cosmic noise, desperate for any hint that the gods are still there. They were a nation devoted to their religious rites, but they felt like those rites were falling on deaf ears. They needed a guide, a translator, and they would get one from the last place anyone would ever think to look: the dirt beneath their feet. The legend, which comes down to us from the Roman writers like Cicero, is as strange as it is specific. It all started in a field near the powerful city of Tarquinia. A farmer, some say it was the legendary founder of the city Tarchon himself, was plowing his land. As his plow cut a furrow deeper than usual, the ground groaned and split open. From that raw cleft in the earth, something stirred. Not a root or a stone, but a being with the unlined face of a baby and the deep, knowing eyes of a very old man. The farmer, understandably, screamed. People came running, and soon word spread like wildfire. The legend says that all of Etruria gathered at that spot, including the 12 Lucumons, the priest kings of the great city-states, to witness this miracle. And then the child spoke. His voice was clear and steady, and what came out wasn't baby talk. It was a complex, structured revelation of the secrets of the cosmos. This was Taugis, not a god to be worshipped, but a prophet to be heard. As he spoke, the priest frantically scribbled down his every word, capturing the divine knowledge before it could disappear. The silence was broken. The gods were finally speaking again, and they'd sent a child to be their voice. What happened to Taugis next is a mystery. Some sources claim he died the very same day he appeared, his purpose fulfilled. But his words would change everything. What Taugis delivered that day became the foundation of Etruscan religion, a collection of sacred books known as the Etrusca Disciplina. Now, these weren't scriptures filled with moral laws or parables like you might be thinking. The Etrusca Disciplina was less a book of commandments, more a divine user's manual, a cosmic cheat sheet for understanding the will of the gods. It didn't teach them how to be good. It taught them how to ask the right questions and understand the answers. His teachings were divided into a few key books. The most famous were the Libri Haruspicini, the books of Haruspicy. This was the intricate and, let's be honest, gruesome art of reading the future by inspecting the internal organs of sacred animals, especially the liver. For the Etruscans, a sheep's liver was a microcosm of the heavens, a divine map. Every bump, mark, and discoloration corresponded to a specific region of the sky and the god who ruled it. To the Etruscans, the liver wasn't just flesh, it was a map of fate itself. The priests, or haruspices, became masters of this sacred anatomy, literally reading the bloody messages left by the gods. Then there were the Libri Fulguralis, the books of lightning. Tagus taught that a lightning strike wasn't random. The sky was a grid of 16 regions, and where a bolt struck, its color and its shape all had a very specific meaning. Finally, the Libri Ritualis laid out the divine rules for everything else: how to found a city, bless a temple, mark a boundary, even how to wage war. Thanks to the child from the dirt, every public act was now part of a sacred conversation with the universe. Religion wasn't just a belief, it was protocol. The teachings of Tagus created a society completely interwoven with the supernatural. Their worldview was one where destiny was a known quantity, and the goal of life was to navigate your preordained path by correctly reading the signs. And this belief system extended deep into their vision of the afterlife, vividly painted on their tomb walls and populated by powerful, intimidating figures. Now, we often call these figures demons, but that's a bit misleading. They weren't evil, they were more like cosmic functionaries, spiritual bureaucrats doing a job. There was Kerun, the grim gatekeeper of the underworld, often shown with a huge hammer, not to torture souls, but to make sure they passed through the gate. He was often seen with Vanth, a winged female figure, an angel of death who was there at the moment of dying. This whole intricate system gave immense power to the priests. They weren't just priests, they were power brokers, decoding fate itself. They advised kings, guided armies, and held the keys to understanding fate itself. The child prophet hadn't just taught an empire how to talk to their gods, he had created the very power structure that would define it for centuries. So what happened to the Etruscans? Well, history does what it does. Their incredibly advanced civilization was eventually absorbed by their ambitious Roman neighbors. Their language faded, their cities were rebuilt, and their culture was assimilated. But the teachings of the child from the field didn't fall completely silent. The Romans, for all their pragmatism, were seriously impressed by Etruscan divination. They adopted the art of the Haruspics. For centuries, whenever Rome faced a crisis or saw a terrifying omen, they called on Etruscan priests to come and read the signs. The Etrusca Disciplina, the sacred knowledge delivered by a child who popped out of a furrow in the earth, continued to echo in the halls of Roman power. In the end, the child's prophecy outlived the very empire it was meant for. From a simple plowed field, a voice emerged that broke a perceived divine silence. A being with the body of a child and the wisdom of an ancient gave a civilization the one tool it felt it had lost: a way to speak with the gods. The story of Tagus is an incredible legend about how our need for meaning can create the most amazing stories. It makes you wonder, though, what if there are more than just stories buried out there? What if deep beneath some forgotten Italian field, another prophecy is just waiting for the right moment to be unearthed? If that gave you chills, hit like and subscribe. We've got more forgotten legends waiting to be unearthed. Got a theory about Tagus? Drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear it.